Hey guys, my name's Kian Hushman, and in today's video we're going to be checking out the brand new plugin from STL Tones, the AmpHub. Let's have a look. So if you're not familiar with STL Tones, it's actually run by fellow Australian Sonny Truelove, who kind of started out doing Kemper profile packs. So what he would do is he would get a bunch of different artists and make a Kemper profile pack for them where people could buy them and then upload them into their own Kempers. And then eventually they moved into that audio plugin type of space where they were making amp synths with really high profile artists and producers like Will Putney and Howard Benson and Andy James, just off the top of my head. There's so many that they've worked with. And then they released the Tone Hub plugin, which is like all those Kemper packs in plugin form, which was super cool. It was like basically having a Kemper or Axe Effects tone on your computer. And now they've gone one step further where it's basically just what it says it is. It's an amp hub. There's so many different types of amps that you can choose from, so many different effects you can put after the amp, before the amp, and pair it with a bunch of different cabinets all within one plugin, which is super nice. Before we get into the tone and demo song that I made using the plugin, I will mention that the guys from STL Tones have been kind enough to give me a personalized URL, so when you click it in my description, it will take you straight to the STL Tones webpage, and whatever questions that you have that this video doesn't answer about the plugin, you'll be definitely finding it on that page, so definitely check that out. If you guys like this video at any time, please feel free to leave a like and a comment on anything you see or hear. If you want to see more of this stuff like amp reviews and stuff like that, plugin reviews, all that good stuff, definitely think about subscribing. And if you want to support me and the channel and what I do, definitely check out the Patreon for tabs, stems, DIs for this beginning track, as well as other demo tracks that I'll release in due time. But enough fluffing about, how does it sound in a mix? Okay, so here it is. This is the brand new plugin from STL Tones, the STL AmpHub, powered by Ignite amps. And right now we're going through my Jackson Michelin Sewer HT6, loaded with bare knuckle Juggernaut pickups, and this is what it sounds like as soon as you open the plugin. Really satisfying. So just a quick brief overview. On the top left you have your presets, where you can save as many preset banks as you want and store as many presets in those preset banks. As you can see here, I was mucking around with it and some of the preset names are very questionable, but we move on. Top right we have routing. Right here is the very nice and very high def looking amp interface. When you click this button here, you get a bunch of different amps that you can choose from. The amps that come included with this interface cover a wide variety of tones. So you got your Fender type tones with your Fender Bass, Fender Deluxe. You got your Framus type tones with your Framus Cobra, Framus Dragon, Ignite Emissary amp, which is really cool, which is the free amp emulation plugin from Ignite amps and STL Tones, but this is just in the form of this, so you can really customize it and pair it with a cab in-house, pair it with different drives in-house. It's really cool to have that in there. The Marshall amps, you got 3 different types of Marshall amps. A Mesa Directive Fire, which is really cool. An orange amp, which you don't see often in a lot of amp plugins, so that's really cool. A Soldano amp, which again you don't really see too often, which is very cool, and is the one that I use for my main tone that you heard in the song. And a Vox amp. Bottom controls, as you can see, are input, so you can kind of drive the input of your guitar before it even hits the plugin, which is really cool and really useful. I don't really touch that on many other plugins, but I was actually experimenting with it on this plugin and it worked really nice. Your gate control, which is really tight and responsive. Tuner, which is really handy. Pedals, so you got a bunch of different pedals you can choose from. As you can see, the one that's loaded up in this default preset that comes included with the plugin, this Reclam preset, is the Fortin 33, which is really nice. Other pre-pedals that you can put before the amp include like compressors, a bunch of different overdrives, equalizers. There's just a really nice wide variety of options of pedals you can put before the amp. Moving on to the cabinet section, as you can see, you have two different types of IRs or mic'd up cabs that you can have at the same time, as well as control a different bunch of things like the distance of the mic from the speaker, the angle of the mic, high pass and low pass, and the resonance. There's a lot of different IRs you can choose from a lot of really nice cabinets. At the moment, I'm using this combination here, and it sounds really nice. The Shure 57 on this speaker is really getting all the high-end stuff, and then the 122 here is kind of rounding out the tone, making it sound really nice but articulate. And then last but not least, the effects page, which comes absolutely loaded with effects. You get a chorus, delay, flanger, phaser, reverb, tremolo. There's so many different effects that you can choose from, as well as having two different types of EQs after. And here's the tone that I made for the beginning song. Really nice and crunchy. As you can tell, I'm using the Soldano SLO 100 sim, which sounds super nice. And before that, I'm going through a Maxon OD 808 overdrive with the drive all the way off, tone pretty high up, and balance all the way up to really saturate the signal. As you can see here, I was experimenting with the 4 and 33. It's not engaged at the moment. I chose the Maxon instead. The reason being is that this is only in drop C. And I felt like the 4 and 33 sucks out a little bit too much low end. Maybe if I was using my 7-string tuned to drop A flat, it would be a little bit more appropriate, but for this purpose, I feel like the Maxon AD 808 is really nice. Moving on to the amp, as you can tell by this switch here, we're using the overdrive channel, obviously. Bright switch on. The preamp is set pretty high at around 8.8. The bass is set at 6.5. The mids are just over 5 at around 5.9. Treble is at 7.2, so a little bit bright. The actual master of the overdrive turned down to 3, and I've compensated by pushing the output up here, and then the presence, just making it a little bit more brighter, is at 7.1. And what you get is a really nice bright crunchy tone, which I'm a super big fan of. So moving on to the cab section, the actual cabs that I've chosen to pair with the Soldano amp are a little bit different to what I usually go for. I'm using a 4x12 orange, mic'd up with a 57, and then a 4x12 Mesa Boogie rectifier loaded up with vintage 30 speakers, mic'd with a 122, and it sounds really nice to my ears. And then there's no effects because it's a high gain rhythm tone. Now I know it might look like a lot when you load up the plugin. There's so many different options, so many different amps, different pedals, different cabinet IRs, but really it's super simple. All you have to do is pick an amp, maybe put an overdrive for it, and then pick a cab, and it should match no matter what and sound really nice. Another one of my favorite amps in the plugin is the Directive Fire. In typical Mesa Directive Fire fashion, it has that really nice ballsy low end to it. If I was to turn that up, it would get even more ballsy, but very true to what an actual Directive Fire would do if you were to turn up the bass knob this high. I feel like just around 3 is enough. So then going through the presets that come included with the actual plugin, that kind of showcases off every different amp. So as you can see, starting off we have the rectifier one, which is really similar to the one I just showed you. As far as actual amp interface options go, with the dual rectifier, you have 2 different channels, and you can even get really nice clean tones out of it. If I was using channel 1 on the clean setting, maybe if I turned off the overdrive, it would work a little bit better. Really nice and beefy in that typical dual rectifier fashion. Moving on, we have the Vox AC30. Right now it's on the treble boost setting, that's why it sounds really high definition. If you want it to be a little bit more drawn back, you can put it on this setting. I actually kind of like how sparkly it is when it's on the treble boost one. The orange Rocker Mark 1, which is really, really nice if you're going for those old Slipknot type tones. Moving on to the one that you're probably most familiar with by now if you're watching the video, the Soldano, which is my personal favorite in the whole plugin. I like this one the most because it's really, really versatile. Like if you want it to be really high gain, you can push it, but if you want to dial it back a little bit and maybe do like, it handles that really, really nicely as well. Moving on to the Fender Deluxe amp, probably the most simple interface out of all the amps. As you can see, you can kind of like put your virtual guitar lead into any of these. You can either have the two bright ones or you can have just the two normal ones. Similar to the Vox, I like the bright ones. I'm more accustomed to bright tones. If you want it really bright, you can turn that up. Maybe that's a little bit too bright. I assume there's an overdrive at the front of this. Yeah, there's a preamp. Really, really versatile. I really enjoy it. The next Fender amp is the Fender bass amp. Now, I kind of want to play with the effects because I feel like this is a really good bass to put your effects in front of. So there's already a delay in front of it. I'm going to pick the reverb, and maybe for shits and gigs, I'm going to pick the chorus. Okay, that chorus is acting way too much. And so is this reverb. So I'm going to turn the wet control down. I'm going to turn the length way, way down. Little bit of high pass to kind of get rid of that low end reverb rumble. Little bit of low pass so it doesn't sound too high definition. Same thing with the delay. I kind of just want to notch those out a little bit. Now we're getting into like some really nice 80s tones. Getting into that like Come Said the Boy by Mondo Rock territory. If you're Australian, you probably know that. Moving on to the Marshall amp, which is a little bit of a guilty pleasure because you can kind of rip out those nice Australian AC/DC riffs. And it just matches, like, it's like when you want to play that type of riff, this is the tone that you hear straight away in your head, and it's like you don't even have to change anything. Moving on to the Marshall J100, which is really nice. A little bit more crunchier. A little bit more brittle sounding when compared to the Mars Attack. This one sounds a little bit more fuller. This one sounds a little bit more drier. And then moving on to the Framer's Cobra, which has so many different options from the bunch of different knobs that you can see on your screen right now. But really it's just a clean channel, a crunch channel, and a lead channel. This section is the clean, this section is the crunch, and then this section is the lead. So depending on what channel you pick, these knobs will control it. So clean. Crunch channel. and then the lead channel. The Cobra amp is actually probably one of the most versatile amps in the whole plugin, considering that it has 3 different channels for clean, crunch and lead, and they all sound excellent. And then moving on to the absolute gent machine, that is the Ignite Amps Emissary. This amp's actually really good if you want to chase a bunch of different high gain metal tones. If you want something that's a little bit more sludgy, if you want something that's really mid focused for that gent type of stuff, this amp can do it all. And the beauty of it now is that because it's in the AmpHub, it's not like a single plugin anymore. This is actually taken from the Ignite Amps Emissary single plugin. That's just the amp head, that has no cab, that has no overdrive pedals before it, nothing. It's just the amp head, so you have to do all that other stuff yourself. The beauty of it now is that it's included in the AmpHub, so you can have any overdrive you want before it, you can have any different type of cab impulse response that you want before it. There's so many options that you can do now, and it's all in-house, and it sounds really good. So yeah, that's pretty much the gist of the whole plugin. If I was to sit here and go through every single amp, every single channel on each amp, every single pedal, every single cabinet impulse response, every single effects that you put after the amp, I would be here for about 5 hours trying to explain it all to you. So hopefully this is just enough insight so you guys can hopefully download it yourself and try it out. And if you want to check it out for yourself, definitely check my link that I've left in the description, and I'll leave a comment for it as well. It kind of lets the guys from STL Tones know how much traffic they're getting from this video alone, so it's really helping me out, really helping them out, and helping you out by trying out this amazing plugin. I get so many questions all the time on Instagram, on YouTube, on Facebook, so many questions asking me like, is X better than Y? Is this amp sim better than that amp sim? And it's not even a question of that anymore, especially with this plugin. Like, everything that's coming out these days sounds absolutely amazing, and this especially sounds really good. It's just what suits you the most, and to be honest, they haven't skipped anything. Like, this has a purpose for every single person that I can think of. If you want clean tones, it's sorted. If you want crunch tones, it's there. If you want super high gain rhythm tones, it's right here. If you want really nice charming effects in your clean tones, it's here. If you want a bunch of different cabinet impulse responses, it's here. If you want so many different types of pedals that you can put before the amp, it's here. If you want a tuner, it's in here. Like, there's so many different things that are in here, and it all sounds absolutely amazing. It's not really a question of does it sound good, because everyone knows it sounds absolutely amazing. Like, just the preset alone, it sounds like a dual rectifier. Like, there's no doubt about it. It's what you put into it, and it's what you do with it, and the tools that they provide you to make any sound that you want, and there's no shortage of that whatsoever. And the fact that it sounds this good is just a bonus. So yeah, that's the STL Tones AmpHub. If you guys want to check out more on the plugin, I'll leave a link in the description and the comments that will take you straight to the webpage. If you guys want to see more of this stuff, definitely think about subscribing and leave a like if you liked anything that you saw or heard. If you want to support me on the Patreon and what I do, as well as get the tabs, stems and DRs for that beginning song you heard, as well as other songs in the future, definitely think about supporting me on there. Massive thanks to all my Patreons. But until next time, I'll catch you guys later. Thank you so much for watching. Ciao.